So let's talk about something real. Let's talk about what women actually want after they hit that big milestone, age 25. Because it turns out it's this huge time of reevaluation, and we're going to get into exactly why.
I mean, it's this weird cultural flashpoint, isn't it? 25. The age where everyone, society, maybe even you, expects your life to just click. You're supposed to have the plan, the answers, the perfect picture. But what happens when you look at that picture and it doesn't even feel like your own?
Okay, so here's our game plan. We'll start with what I'm calling the quarter life blueprint, that life society tells us we should have. Then we'll look at the cracks that start to show up in that perfect image. We'll dive deep into actions versus desires, figure out why this great reevaluation is happening, and finally, talk about what it actually means to embrace your authentic self. All right, first up, the quarter life blueprint. You know what I'm talking about. It's that unwritten, invisible script for the life you feel like you're supposed to be living once you're in your mid to late 20s. And what's on this script? Oh, it's a massive checklist of achievements, right? You've got to secure that impressive career, find that long-term partner, settle down, and hey, while you're at it, maintain a super busy social life, and of course, stay fit and look good. It's just this immense pressure to perform a very specific kind of success. But then things start to feel a little off. Often it's quiet at first, but the cracks in that perfect facade begin to show. This is that moment when the life you've worked so hard to build doesn't quite match the blueprint anymore. And this feeling, it is so surprisingly common. This quote just hits the nail on the head. You can check every single box, have everything you're supposed to want, and still feel this deep, weird disconnect, like you're just an actor playing a role in your own life. So this gap starts to open up. It's this growing space between the life you're performing for everyone else and the life your inner voice is kind of quietly, or maybe not so quietly, asking for. And this gap, well, this is where things get really interesting. Which brings us right to this internal tug of war, your actions versus your real desires. Let's take a closer look at this disconnect and put some of these outward actions side by side with those deep down wants. Okay, let's start with your career. The blueprint action item is clear. Climb that corporate ladder. Go for the status, get the security. But the hidden desire? It's often for something much deeper. Work that feels meaningful, that actually aligns with your values, no matter what the job title is. And then there are relationships. The expected path is to follow that traditional timeline. You know, dating, engagement, marriage, the whole thing. But the real desire is often just for the freedom to define partnership on your own terms, to build a connection that feels right for you, whether it fits into some conventional box or not. And finally, your social life. The performance is all about being a social butterfly, right? Having this huge circle of friends, a calendar that's packed, always saying yes to everything. But that secret desire is usually for depth over breadth, for cultivating real, intimate, supportive connections with just a few people who truly get you. So we've seen the what, but the bigger question is why? Why does this all happen? That brings us to the great reevaluation. It's time to get into the why behind this big shift. Well, there are a few things going on here. Of course, there's that intense societal pressure we've been talking about, and a very real fear of being judged or feeling like you're falling behind. But honestly, it's also just a natural part of growing up, a transition that pushes you to search for who you really are, separate from who you were always told to be. And this internal conflict, it often leads to a feeling we can call an authenticity hangover. You know what I mean? It's that deep, soul-level exhaustion that comes from constantly performing, from living a life that just doesn't line up with who you are inside. It is absolutely draining. So the big question is, what do you do with all of this? And that leads us to our final section, embracing your authentic self. This is all about making that shift from just wanting something different to mindfully and gently moving towards it. Now, this is so important. This is not about blowing up your life. You don't have to quit your job and move across the world tomorrow. It's a much quieter and honestly a much more powerful process of just learning to tune in and actually trust your own inner voice. So here are 3 little ideas to get you started. First, just acknowledge the desire. Give yourself permission to want what you want without any judgment. Second, start questioning the shoulds. Every time you think, I should do this, just gently ask, says who? Where's that pressure coming from? And third, define your own version of success. Forget the blueprint for a minute and just write down what a truly fulfilling life looks and feels like to you.
So, as we wrap up, I'll leave you with this thought. This isn't about having it all figured out by 25. It's about having the courage to figure yourself out at any age. So, my question for you is, what is one secret desire, big or small, that you could give yourself permission to acknowledge, starting today?